Badass of the Week is produced by High Five Content.
Fall, 401 BCE. The air is thin, and the Zagros Mountains are merciless. For days they have marched, every climb a fight against gravity and exhaustion. 200 miles, 2,000. The winding road of their retreat has bled them dry, not just of water and food, but of men. Their numbers started at 10,000, the elite of Greek mercenary might. Now the remnants are a ragged line of specters, gaunt-faced and clinging to the hope of a distant sea. Hunger is a constant, gnawing companion. The cold seeps into the bone, and the thirst is unbearable. Then the mountains come alive. From the peaks above, the enemy descends. A wild, howling band of warriors armed to the teeth. Rocks rain down like artillery. Arrows fly thick and fast. Panic ripples through the exhausted ranks. But in the center of the chaos, a voice cuts through the din, steady and clear. It belongs to a man who, until a few years ago, was more comfortable debating the nature of virtue in Athens than the geometry of a shield wall. He is a student of Socrates, a writer, a philosopher. The remnants of the army transform. Xenophon, the academic who became a general, forms his starving, freezing men into a single terrifying block, the phalanx, a living wall of flesh and bronze. Spear points drop to the ready position, a bristling hedge of iron. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, fear, and cold metal. The shout from the high ground is now a full-throated, bloodthirsty battle cry. The enemy charge plunges down the slope, propelled by gravity and fury. They will crash against this wall. They will be broken on the points of these spears. Because even when all hope is lost, even when you're trapped in a foreign land with the ghosts of 10,000 staring back at you, you do not retreat. You stand and you fight. Hello, and welcome back to Badass of the Week, the show where we always go the extra mile in service of telling stories of great badasses from history. My name is Ben Thompson, and I am joined today by my co-host, a person who also appreciates a bad historical pun, Dr. Pat Larish. Pat, thank you.
Yeah, Ben, you've totally got my number. Bring on the bad historical puns.
I was actually fairly impressed that you didn't laugh because you didn't know that joke was coming, and I thought maybe you were going to laugh before I introduced you. There was a chance.
I was showing self-restraint, Ben.
Yes. How stoic of you. How Greek of you.
Yes. Xenophon would be proud. Oops. Did I just spoil where we're going?
I think it's the title of the episode. So.
Okay. Yeah. Xenophon would be proud. Okay. But yes,
we are also joined today by another special guest. We are going an extra mile. We are telling a very epic story on the scale of, we are literally telling a Greek epic today. So that kind of project sometimes requires three people. And today we are joined by a person that you, the listeners, might remember from previous episodes or might recognize from the fact that he's a Twitter and Instagram famous internet personality. We're joined by Primawesome Mike Primavera. Mike, welcome back to the show.
Happy to be part of the podcasting phalanx.
Yes.
Yes.
We're crushing this. Yes. Good episode so far, you guys. This is what I'm looking for. This is what people come to this show for. Mm-hmm. So I guess when we're going to start the story of Xenophon, we need to, I'll ask you guys a question. Have you ever had a really good plan go completely sideways on you?
Oh, yeah. Constantly.
Yes. And they don't even have to be really good plans, just ordinary plans. Even I walk into a room and I forget why I went into that room.
Yes.
100%.
I mean, yeah, but yeah. Or you mean things like, I don't know, you try to go somewhere and the plane is grounded for 6 hours or something like that?
Something like that. Maybe something along the lines of let's say maybe you're like a young, well-off Athenian aristocrat who's studying with Socrates, and you decide out of nowhere to join a suicidal military expedition. Everything goes to hell, and you're required to adapt, improvise, and overcome while surrounded by enemy soldiers on all sides who hate you and want you to die.
I hate when that happens.
Oh,
Sounds like a couple of our beer runs, Mike, when we were on the D&D group together. Okay. We are going to take a really quick break, and when we come back, we are going to tell a story of a Greek phalanx that that went really, really, really far into enemy territory and then had to fight their way out. It's basically the raid, except it's in ancient Greece, and it's got the Persians, and it's going to be pretty awesome. So stick with us. When we come back, we are going to tell the story of Xenophon and the 10,000. Xenophon was born around 430 BCE in Athens, and this is kind of the height of Athens as we like to picture it when we think about classical Greece with the big white columns and Zeus and Athena and all of that stuff. He is born into a wealthy aristocratic family. They're rich, they have good social status. He's part of the upper class. He has access to education. He has the opportunity to live a life where he doesn't have to move things around with his hands and do like hard physical labor. He basically gets into philosophy and academia, and he becomes friends with Socrates. Socrates is his teacher, and he becomes part of the inner circle of Socrates at the height of him doing Socrates things. They get in philosophical discussions, they get in debates. He's very heavily influenced by Socrates' teachings on virtue and ethics, and he becomes a master of the Socratic method of inquiry, which sounds very fancy, Pat, but I actually have no idea what it is.
Okay, if you've read any of Plato's dialogues, you've encountered this. Ben and Mike, what would you consider the purpose of philosophical inquiry? Okay. So you'd say you're at a bit of an impasse here. Might you say that one of the chief goals of philosophical inquiry is living a better life? Okay.
Yeah.
Can I throw you a bone here?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
If it's a yes/no question, unless you know that you disagree, you can just say yes by Zeus.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. So would you not say that one of the chief goals of philosophical inquiry is living a better life?
Yes, by Zeus.
Yes, awesome. And
that's
would you
it?
not say? Sorry, go ahead.
Are we doing it? Are we being philosophical?
You're being very Socratic. Like if you're playing Socratic dialogue bingo, every time someone says yes by Zeus, you tick it off. So Ben and Mike, would you not say that inquiry is a sort of asking of questions?
Yes, by Zeus.
Okay. And is it not true that one's philosophical ideals can be expressed and even refined through action and reflection upon said action?
Yes, by Zeus.
Yes, by Zeus.
Oh, you're awesome. You're pros. Okay, this is great. So, Ben and Mike, would you not say that it is often worthwhile to hear stories about others who have expressed and even refined their philosophical ideas through action and through reflection upon that action?
Yes, by Zeus.
Yes, by Zeus.
All righty then. So, time for an action story?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yes, by Zeus. Yes.
I'm putting philosopher
okay.
on my resume now.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
true.
Yes. Yeah.
We no longer have a gap in our employment. Yes, go ahead.
I was going to say what we do is a little bit unfair because, sometimes Socrates asks questions that actually inspire substantial responses where the people actually try to put together some thoughts. But some of it is yes by Zeus.
Yeah, we're in the wrong place for that sort of
Yeah.
reaction. Okay, yeah, so, all right, it's amid that climate of riveting philosophical debate that in the year 401 BCE, Xenophon's buddy Proxenus shows up and asks him if he wants to go on an adventure. So, There is some trouble happening in Persia at this time. Now, Greece in 401 is doing okay. They had these Peloponnesian wars where Sparta fought against Athens, and those went on for a while. But by 401, that's over. And there's some drama happening in Persia. There is a Persian prince named Cyrus the Younger. He's the Prince of Persia, as you do. He is dealing with a rebellion by a guy named Tissaphernes, and Tissaphernes he's a satrap, which is like a regional governor. Think like a count or a duke or something. He was kind of instrumental in the Peloponnesian War, causing trouble between Sparta and Athens. He would play one side off the other, and he's kind of like this cunning guy. But the Greeks all hate him because he was playing both sides against each other. So they already hate Tissaphernes, and now Tissaphernes hates Cyrus the Younger. Cyrus is the prince. He's like, I need some badass soldiers. We're gonna go out there. We're gonna kick this guy's butt. We're gonna defeat his armies. We're gonna sack his capital. Come with me. I'm gonna pay you awesome, and you get a share of the plunder. You can whatever you want to plunder out of his capital, you can go for it. And on top of that, you get to be friends with the prince now. This is all gonna work out great. Xenophon, I know you're doing this yes by Zeus thing, but let's do it, right? Let's go. I got a commission in the army. Let's go fight some Persians. What do you guys think?
Sounds like a good deal. Sign me up.
Yeah, right.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah, I mean it's an easy sell, right? Because Xenophon at this point, he's in his 20s, and he has been kind of growing up hearing these stories of these badass heroes of the Peloponnesian War, the badass heroes, the King Leonidas fighting the Persians, all this stuff. He's heard all of these stories growing up, and even the epics, the Iliad, the Odyssey, those kind of things, the Greek mythology stories. That's all really popular. But he's grown up and he hasn't had any war to fight. And there's this whole generation of Greek soldiers that have been looking for their big epic war, big epic hero moment, and they haven't had it. It's because everybody's at peace. It's so annoying that these Greek city-states aren't killing each other anymore. So cool. Got an opportunity.
Is he cruising for a bruising?
He's cruising to do some bruising. But there's one little problem, and he's got to in order to go out into Persia and fight Tissaphernes, he kind of has to get permission from his teacher to miss school.
Oh, no. Okay. So he goes to Socrates. He goes to his philosophy professor, and he says, hey, Socrates, what do you think? What should I do? How do I think about this? And, is it a good idea? Should I do this? No. And Socrates says, well, why don't you go to the oracle at Delphi? And this is a shout out to our Oracle at Delphi episode, right?
Yeah, we did an episode on this.
Yeah. And Xenophon goes to Delphi and he asks the Pythia, okay. And he comes back and Socrates says, okay. And Xenophon says, okay, professor. Socrates says, what did the oracle tell you? What question did you ask? And Xenophon says, well, the oracle said that I should sacrifice to Apollo to make this a successful thing. And Socrates says, wait, what? Wait, what question did you ask? Now, Xenophon, he's smart. He's heard stories. So he did not ask, should I go on this expedition? He asked, which god should I sacrifice to have success on this expedition? Sounds like he knew what he had made up his mind, And Socrates says, "No, you dumbass, you idiot! That's not how you do it. That's not how you're supposed to use the oracle." Anyway,
I think gods love being tricked. Right? I think they really appreciate it.
You got to speak their language.
Yeah. I mean, on the one hand, it's pretty cool that he was a pretty wealthy, high-ranking Athenian if he was able to just go down to Delphi and ask the oracle a question, because that was not really easy to do, as we established in that episode. Yeah. Then he goes and he comes back and Socrates is like, you did the yes by Zeus thing with the oracle. Actually, I don't think that's a great idea. I know what you did there. Yeah. I'm a genius. I can tell what you did. You pulled a fast one on the gods. There's no way that's going to backfire. Okay, so he made up his mind, and they're off. He's going to join up with Proxenus. Proxenus is legitimately a general. He's a general in this Greek mercenary force. It's not the army of Athens or the army of Sparta. Cyrus the Younger shows up. He's like, I need 13,000, somewhere between 12 and 13,000 Greek warriors. The Greeks make great warriors. You have the phalanx, you have the armor and all that stuff. Like, come with me. I'm going to use you as heavy infantry in my battle against this rebel count. And let's go. Great. Cool. Xenophon is not a soldier, but he's going to come along as like a buddy of Proxenus. He's going to hang out with Proxenus and just be around when the war is happening. Cool. It's a road trip. So
Yes.
now all the Greeks have to do is strap on 60 pounds of weapons and armor and literally walk 1,000 miles into Persia, which is farther than any Greek army has ever traveled in any direction away from Greece at this point in time. I mean, like, you know, most of them were walking in the phalanx, but I think Xenophon probably got to ride a horse because he was an aristocrat and stuff. So I bet he wasn't doing all the walking the whole time. But still.
Yeah. And speaking of horses, some of what we know about how horse training happened in the ancient world actually comes from him. He wrote a book, well, not a book, more like an essay about how to train horses. And he also wrote another one about how to run your cavalry. He wrote a lot of stuff.
Maybe the most badass horse boy in history. The only one.
Yeah. So he does. Like he's gonna do this. So he almost certainly rides a horse out there. So first they travel by sea, then by land. They travel 1,000 miles from Greece. They get to the gates of Babylon and array in battle, and the army draws up against them. And Tissaphernes is there, but the army is actually led by the Persian king Artaxerxes II.
Wait, the king?
Yes. So, funny story, guys. Didn't mention this, but so in 404 BCE, King Darius II of Persia dies, and he leaves the king. He's got two sons. Artaxerxes is the eldest, and Cyrus the younger is the younger, obviously. So, okay, as you do in these days, when the king dies, the crown goes to his son Artaxerxes, the oldest son. Well, the younger brother, his mom really liked him, and she thought he should be the king. So his mom's name is Perisatis, and she was like, look, Artaxerxes is really he's not really cut out for being the king. Cyrus is way better. Cyrus should be king instead. And she told this to Cyrus and to Artaxerxes. Cyrus was like, sure, I'll be king. Artaxerxes was like, no, he has Cyrus arrested. But then mom talks Artaxerxes out of executing Cyrus as a traitor. He's like, no, okay, I won't execute you. This wasn't really a rebellion. Why don't you go back home? So Cyrus goes back home, and he's like, I'm pretty sure Artaxerxes is going to kill me as soon as my mom dies. So I better attack him first. So he gathers a bunch of mercenaries, telling them all that he's going to fight a rebel faction of the Persians. But in reality, he's initiating a civil war to overthrow the king and install himself as king.
That's kind of a bait and switch.
Little bit.
Yeah.
Okay,
Cyrus.
It gets worse. Cyrus's army is much smaller than Artaxerxes' army. When Artaxerxes shows up, his numbers are probably like 3 times that of Cyrus's. Apparently, you know, the throne does pass to the oldest son. I guess most of Persia didn't care that much that like which brother mommy liked best, and so they weren't going to go with the Cyrus thing. They're going to fight against Cyrus. Okay, cool. Well, the mercenaries are mercenaries. The Greeks have been paid to be there and fight this battle. So on 401, on the field of Cunaxa outside Babylon, the Greeks and Cyrus's army attack Artaxerxes' army. The Greeks are on the right flank. They're arrayed against Tissaphernes, who is the guy they hate, and the whole reason they came here was to kill this guy. So they're here and they get a chance now. And this is that old style of Greek fighting with the hoplites with the big, Corinthian helmets, the shields, the big spears, where they line up in this very tight phalanx and move forward against the Persian army. And they're super successful. There's like 12,000 Greeks on the battlefield at the beginning of the battle, and they attack the Persian flank. They attack the Persian side. They defeat them. The Persians break and run. Tissaphernes' guys are on the run.
They defeat them?
Yeah, they win. And so the
Whoa.
Greeks are like pushing through, and they start to chase them through the forest. And they chase them for about a half mile through the forest. The Greeks are wearing the heavy armor. The Persians wear lighter armor. They get away. And the Greeks are like, all right, we did it. They're like cheering. They come back to the battlefield. They're like, all right, guys, like, this is going to be great. Let's sack Babylon. I've heard good things about those hanging gardens. But the mood when they return is not quite what they were expecting. There's been a little bit of a problem.
Why does everyone look so glum?
Yeah. So in the rest of the battle that did not involve the Greeks, Cyrus launched his chariots and cavalry directly at Artaxerxes. They fought each other in single combat. Cyrus wounded Artaxerxes, but was then killed. And so he dies.
Oh.
And all of the Persians in his army now do not have, like, whatever succession you thought it was. Artaxerxes is the king now because your guy's dead. So all of the surviving Persians just threw themselves on the mercy of Artaxerxes. Sorry, all hail the king. The king is dead. We didn't mean it. We're sorry. Take pity on us. And so the Greeks walk back, and now their employer is dead, so they're not getting paid. They're at the capital of the enemy empire. Every single soldier on the battlefield when they return is now an enemy. They have no supplies. They don't actually know where they are or how to get home. And, the Persian king is mad at them because they tried to overthrow him.
Short-lived victory.
Yeah. Oh, did I say plunder Babylon? I meant tour Babylon.
It's beautiful this time of year.
Yeah. Okay, so Mike, what? So the Persians, this isn't the hiring of mercenaries and what to do with mercenaries after they've lost the battle isn't an entirely new thing, right?
Yeah. So Tissaphernes is like, don't worry, guys, let's talk. We'll figure this out. It's just business, right? I get it. Just hand over your weapons, okay? And the Greeks are like, no, we're not doing that. So Tissaphernes is like, okay, well then let's talk truce. Peace conference? And the Greeks are like, sure. And Clearchus, the Greek leader, and Xenophon's buddy, Proxenus, go to a peace conference, and I'm sure this will be just fine. Spoiler alert, it's a trap. And the top 5 generals are invited into the peace conference and ambushed. Those that aren't killed outright are brought back into Babylon and tortured to death.
Great.
So
they do get to tour Babylon.
You mean
Yeah.
not great? Oh, no. Oh, dear.
Okay, so now we have a problem. So Xenophon tricked the Oracle of Delphi and tricked the gods into going on this mission. He's traveled farther than any Greek army has ever traveled, won his side of the battle, but lost the battle, is surrounded by enemies, and now all the leaders are dead. So great. Of the 13,000 that left, there are only 10,000 surviving. 3,000 soldiers are killed in that battle. Those guys have no officers' corps, no leadership. They are a really long way from home. They're surrounded by hostile forces in an unknown landscape. And on top of that, most of their supplies, the army has to travel with supplies. You need food, arrows, water, horseshoes, all that stuff. That was mostly supplied by Cyrus and is now on Artaxerxes' side. So, okay, you kind of thought like, hey, we're just mercenaries. It's all business. Don't worry about it. We're going to get out of your hair. Like, just leave us alone. It doesn't seem like Tissaphernes is going to let them go. So now we've got an adventure on our hands.
Adventure. That's one way to put it.
Yes. Okay. So we're going to take a really quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk the story of how these guys get back. And it's going to be a slightly longer journey than the one there. All right, welcome back. We are here with the story of Xenophon. Xenophon is a philosophy student who traveled along with an army was part of this big battle, was going to come back and be this great hero and write the book on it. He's kind of a war correspondent, I guess, in some ways. And
Yeah, I
now
suppose he is, yeah.
Yeah, and now he finds himself surrounded by enemies, and it's starting to look like maybe these guys aren't going to get out of this one. So, okay, what now? If you are a philosophy student who has been practicing oratory your whole life and writing, and your army is leaderless and is in very, very serious danger of, if they disband, they're all dead, right? If these guys go off in every direction, they're dead. There's no way. Maybe a couple people can slip back to Greece. If you're going to, like, you have 10,000 Greek soldiers here, and this is a formidable fighting force, you don't have any logistical ability to sustain it. You don't have the equipment with you to, like, repair your armor and stuff. You don't have easy access to food or water, and you've got to get back home, and everybody's trying to kill you. So what are your options here?
Lots of room for upward mobility. Time to get that promotion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have no more generals anymore, huh?
Guess who's good at talking?
Guess who's good at talking and is riding on a horse. Already looked the part. Yes. So Xenophon does what he does best. He gives a speech, and he reminds the soldiers, he gets everybody together. They don't know what to do. Everybody's kind of pulling their hair out, literally, because all their officers are dead and they have no leadership. And he gives this big speech about how the army's not over yet, and they need to fall back on their discipline and training and fighting ability to get out of this. He says, "Whoever among you desires to return to his family, let him remember to fight bravely, for that is the only means to effect it. Whoever has a mind to live, let him endeavor to conquer, for the part of the conqueror is to inflict death, and that of the conquered to receive it. If any of you covet riches, let him endeavor to overcome, for the victorious not only preserve their own possessions, but acquire those of the enemy." And the guys with him are like, "Yeah, all right. I think I could do that." That doesn't sound so bad.
Sounds pretty good.
Yes, by Zeus. Kill them and take their stuff. Got it. And do that all the way back to Athens.
Yeah. And the effect of this is he's actually able to boost morale. He finds them at a point of despair and is able to pluck them out of the morass of despair, and he gives them a mission. He gives them a purpose. We're going home. And so they elect him as one of the new leaders. And this army is kind of you can think of it as a marching republic. It's a practical exercise in self-governance. There's, we're in a novel situation. How do you make decisions? How do you manage things? And Xenophon uses his philosophy to inform his leadership. He appoints officers, he organizes troops, he gets them moving. So earlier, like, we're talking about like 1,000 or more mile journey to Persia at the beginning of this story with 60 pounds of armor, Mm-hmm. And Xenophon says to the soldiers, okay, we got to travel light, So this is the magic art of ditching pretty much everything.
It's the Marie Kondo rule of leading an army, right? Does this spear spark joy?
Yeah. Gotta bring it. You need it. Water
Need
bottle.
the
Spear.
Yeah. Yes.
Comfortable shoes.
Yeah.
Comfortable sandals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
Labubu. You might have to ditch the Labubu.
Okay, so that's what they do. They get on the move. Xenophon leads the army, and they are traveling. Remember that they are traveling through unknown terrain here. Like, the Persians have maps of what's going on here, but these guys, they don't really know where they are and how to get back home from here. They have a general idea. We're going west, but okay. So they start to move through this unknown terrain. They need to take care of food and water, and they don't have time to, like, they're not going to farm it or whatever. So it's what he said, right? You've got to take it. So they'll go to places and they'll ask. In some cases they'll ask, in some cases they'll trade for food, in some cases they'll just take it. And Pat, when we were going through the notes on this episode, you made an interesting note on here where you were like, at one point Xenophon loses some guys because he sends them to, like, acquire some goods, and, like, a bunch of guys die on that mission. And and then you wrote in, I had that as my note, and then you wrote in parentheses next to acquire goods, you wrote like kill people and plunder.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. We've got like how many thousands of guys? If like say Ben, Mike, if it's you and me on a road trip, it's just three of us. We show up at a random village and we're like, hey, can we like trade you some bronze coins or whatever for some food? The village would probably be able to come up with food for three people. But this is not three people. This is 10,000 people. And they're hungry and they need to eat. And, they might be a little more extreme than just a handful of people on a road trip.
Yeah, and 10,000 people is like, it's like a football field, like a stadium. Like if 10,000 people is like like a smaller college stadium is about that capacity, right? This is not a small group of people. This is a very large army moving, and they've got to feed these guys. They got to fight, right? Because they're under attack almost every day. So as these guys are marching, they're traveling as light as they can, but they're still heavy infantry. And they're moving along, and Tissaphernes wants these guys dead, and he's sending cavalry and archers after them. He's sending lightly armored people. They're harassing any kind of foraging parties, any kind of raiding parties are getting attacked by cavalry. Archers are harassing the formation. They're trying to find food and shelter on the fly as they're moving. And they also, they're under attack, and they don't know, like, they've got to get across the Tigris River. They got to get across some pretty big rivers, and they don't know where to ford them, where the mountain passes are. And when they ask the locals don't want them there. They are an invading army of Greeks who they hate. And so the people here don't want to give them food, because even then, like, you're a traitor to Artaxerxes if you help these people. They're the enemy. You're not going to tell them where to go. The Soviets come to town and ask me, where's the best hamburger in town? I'm not going to tell them. So, okay. They are dealing with these constant attacks. So Xenophon comes up with a plan. And this is going to check off some more badass bingo stuff. Xenophon comes up with a very good philosophical plan on how to stop or at least discourage Tissaphernes' cavalry from harassing him. They turn and fight a small group of his cavalry, and they defeat these guys, and then they horribly mutilate their bodies and put them on pikes and leave them at intervals behind the main army, so that when the rest of the cavalry is coming to chase them, they keep seeing all these dead bodies impaled on pikes. And they're like, it just demoralizes them. So like maybe they don't want to attack the Greeks.
Yeah, I think that'd work.
It's like Halloween decorations.
Yeah. So they cross the Zapatas River. This is the modern Great Zab River. They are attacked by someone named Mithridates, but this is not the famous Mithridates that Ben, you and I did an episode a while ago. Mm-hmm. It is a different Mithridates. It's just a very common name.
One of the many Mithridates. There's like 7 Mithridates in that episode alone.
Oh yeah. So they're making progress.
Yeah, we always have to call it out when a Mithridates appears in one of these episodes because of how many there were in that one.
It was like the Kevin of the day.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
I know a bunch of people named Brian. Xenophon knew a bunch of people named Mithridates.
Yep.
Okay, so like I said, they can't figure out where to ford the Tigris River, and nobody will tell them where to go. So they're like, all right, we got to get out of Persia at least. We got to because we're getting attacked and we're on their home turf. So they decide they're going to march north. They march north into the mountains of Kurdistan, which is at the time not part of the Persian Empire. It's also...
And the people who live there are called in our ancient Greek sources the Carduchi, which may very well be the ancestors of the modern Kurds.
Oh, yeah. Well, what do we know about the Carduchi? What can we infer about them? What do you think they think about a big Greek army? What do you think the Kurds think about a big giant Greek army marching through their mountain passes, plundering everything that they can get their hands on?
I think we're going to throw some rocks at their heads.
Yes. Yes. So that is exactly what happens. They're marching. The Greeks march through these mountain passes, and the Carduchi roll giant boulders down into their formations. They throw rocks. They shoot arrows. They throw spears. They yell insults. There's constant fighting all the time here as well. Guerrilla attacks and ambushes. It's just a different flavor of it now. Now they're throwing stuff down at you from the mountaintops instead of shooting arrows at you from behind. Okay, great.
So the Greeks, they're caught between the Carducii, and at some point they're able to put the Carducii behind them, but not very far behind them. And there's a new enemy in front of them.
Yes, they are constantly surrounded in an alien landscape. And I mean, I guess, Pat, can we say that he's xenophobic? Is that where that comes from?
Actually, no. So his the word xenophobic, which means like fearing or hating foreigners, that's just from the Greek word xenos, which means foreigner or stranger or guest, and phobic, which means phobos, which means fear. And Xenophon's name. A lot of Greek names were compound names, so they were composed of two different parts. So, Demosthenes was the demos means people, and sthenes means strength. So the famous orator was named Strength of the People. And Xenophon's name is from xenos, which means foreigner, stranger, guest. It's kind of flexible. And phon, which might mean, it's a little unclear, but it might mean voice. So maybe this means foreign voice, or maybe a voice of the guest. There's another theory that it means light, like maybe he lights up when he's hosting guests or something like that. And I wouldn't read too much into it. Sorry.
I always thought xenophobic came from Xenophon because he was like surrounded by enemies in an alien landscape.
Yeah, it made sense.
Yeah. Not directly.
Okay. All right. Well, either way, he's still in bad shape. He's still deep behind enemy lines on this journey, trying to, and the 10,000 are getting whittled away. He starts with 10,000 guys, and like he's losing people, whether it's to, they are up in the mountains, people are falling, people are getting rocks dropped on their heads, they're getting shot by arrows, like they're deserting, they don't want to be part of this army anymore, so they ditch their gear and try to like make it on foot themselves. And he's losing people, and he's starting to feel like he's kind of between a rock and I don't know, Kurdistan or something.
That old saying.
Yeah. And then Mike Xenophon has a dream. It strikes him like a bolt of lightning.
Yeah, so Xenophon goes to bed that night and has a dream that his father's house is struck by lightning and set ablaze. And I guess you could take that a lot of ways, but he decides it must be a sign from Zeus. Is it a good omen, a bad omen? Who knows? But Xenophon decides to interpret it as a sign to be decisive and move onward, which is probably the best way to take it when you're in a rock and between a rock and Kurdistan.
Yes, by Zeus.
Yes, by Zeus.
Yeah, who knows? He had a dream that his dad's house got struck by lightning. Sure, that's probably a good omen. I don't know if that's how I take it.
Definitely involves Zeus. So,
definitely involves Zeus. He can't be. There's no mistaking that.
And he's not
Zeus
malicious at all. So
Zeus, no.
Yeah, Zeus turning his attention to you has never been a bad thing.
no.
Never.
Okay, well, from the mountains of Kurdistan into the winter of Armenia. And Armenia, if you've never been, is very cold in the winter, especially this particular winter. And especially when your military uniform consists of a knee-length tunic, a pair of sandals, and a suit of metal armor.
Oof.
So the Greeks are having a hard time moving through the winter here. They're camping out. They're moving slowly, but they've got to keep moving because they can't grow food or get food. So they need to keep moving. And the enemy knows where they are, and they're going to find them and attack them if they stop. So, all right, they're pushing forward through the snow. They're getting hypothermia. Men are going snowblind. They're getting frostbite. People are starving to death. And it is just this kind of this winter, horrifying, freezing cold death march. But even when it seems extremely, extremely dark, and it seems like maybe these guys aren't going to make it out, Pat, they finally have a breakthrough.
They cry, "Talata, Talata, the sea, the sea." And this is the famous climax where the soldiers, after months of marching and fighting and trudging, they finally see the Black Sea, and they realize, oh, we know how to get home now. Mm-hmm. We're almost back to Greek lands. And it's just this emotional triumph that Xenophon immortalizes in his book. So they've arrived at the town of Trapezus. It's Greek. they finally can take a break. They play some sports, they hang out, they resupply, they sail for Byzantium. The army at one point breaks up into 3 different divisions, but basically Xenophon's section heads back to Greece. And it was a long time coming.
Yes.
Man, that must have felt so good.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
That's one of the famous moments of the book. Was like the sea. I feel like Pat had to do it because she's the only one that you really have to hear it in the original ancient Greek.
Talata. Yeah. There used to be in Berkeley, California. There actually used to be a bar with a pool room, billiards, called Talata, and I don't know why they called it that, but I don't know. It's a good place to hang out. I don't know if they're open anymore, but yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, Mike, the route is nuts, right? Have you seen this?
Man, yeah, by all accounts and purposes, they should not have made that at all. It's crazy.
Yeah. If you guys get a chance to go look at a map with the March of the 10,000 of the Anabasis drawn on it, it's a little meandering because they actually don't know where they're going for a lot of it, but it is wild.
Yeah, I mean, they cover 4,000 miles in 215 days, which is the equivalent of walking from Miami, Florida to Juneau, Alaska in 7 months. I don't know.
Insane.
I don't know if anybody.
I've never done that myself.
6,000 men survived the perilous journey, an amazing number considering that they were constantly being wiped out by enemy soldiers, harsh climates, unforgiving terrain. I mean, they should not have made it. The fact that 6,000 out of them made it is nuts.
Yeah, more than half of them survived the journey. It's unbelievable, right? And they're fighting the whole time. They're under attack, right? These guys are in enemy territory. So, okay. So Xenophon is not the most, he's not like you mentioned, Pat, this is a republic. This is not a or marching republic. This is not like, he's not the main general in charge of the whole thing, but he is one of the main generals in charge of the whole thing. And he's the kind of the guy who really steps up and provides this leadership and gives these speeches and commands this expedition and kind of forces his guys forward. He also is able to develop, while he has no military experience going into this, he does develop various forms of military strategies and tactics that are slightly unconventional because he's coming at it from a perspective of a philosopher and not as a military guy who just fights the way that the generals before him fought. So he comes up with some new strategies for fighting rear guard actions where you move the main body of your army forward and we keep a detachment in the back to fight away those guys like Tissaphernes' cavalry or the Kurds with their rocks and stuff. He doesn't invent the flanking maneuver, but he later in his writings is one of the first people to ever write down how to execute one. One of the oldest surviving texts on how to perform a flanking maneuver. So, okay, he does it. He keeps the morale of the people up. And this is a thing where we've seen before on the show, especially marching through mountain passes and snow and stuff. If the morale of an army breaks, if an army routs and splits up and starts running and isn't fight as a cohesive unit, especially a phalanx, if you have cracks in the phalanx, it will be destroyed. And so he had to keep those guys together, or otherwise it was either like 6,000 make it home or 0 make it home, basically.
Yeah.
So he arrives home in the year 399, and he's got somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 of the 10,000. He's immediately famous. He's a huge hero for showing up with these guys after everybody thought they were dead. All this news has come through that these guys have been killed. They're not coming home. And so he's this big hero when he gets home. But when he returns to his beloved Athens, there is some bad news because he goes to visit his philosophy professor, Socrates, and it turns out that Socrates has been arrested for corrupting the youth and being friends with friend of the show, Alcibiades. So he is on trial for his life when Xenophon returns.
Yeah, and Socrates is executed. And Xenophon later writes about the trial, and he later writes about a dinner party with Socrates as a way of, humanizing Socrates or kind of after the fact trying to defend him. Plato is famous for being a good source for the trial and death of Socrates, but also let's give Xenophon some credit too.
Yeah, was he? Because he was there. Okay, so Socrates is executed, and Xenophon is not happy about that. He's like immediately, he's so angry because he loved Socrates, and he goes out and he's heard all of this stuff about, Athenian democracy and all of this. He comes back and he says like, oh, this was like some political BS. Like Socrates didn't deserve what he got. And he's completely disillusioned with Athens, Athenian Republic, the democracy, all of that stuff. So where do you go if you hate Athens, Mike?
You go to Sparta.
You go to Sparta because they also hate Athens.
It's like the number one place.
Yes. Now that he's a military guy, he's got to go to Sparta. Now that you're a famous general, there's only one place to go. Yeah. He likes Sparta. He's into them because they have this like discipline, and he thinks that Athens has kind of become kind of corrupt and greedy, and he wants to go to Sparta where it's still like a little bit more organized and disciplined. And so he goes there. He becomes friends with the king of Sparta, even like serves in a couple military campaigns with the Spartans. And this is kind of, he gets exiled from Athens because they become mad at him for joining the Spartans. The Spartans give him an estate on a big area of land near Olympus, and he becomes known as Xenophon of Athens, which is kind of funny because he hates Athens and he likes Sparta. But
he's been disappointed by Athens. Yeah, but it makes sense if you're the one guy in Sparta who is from Athens, you would be known as the Athenian because everyone around you is not from Athens.
That's fair. It'd be weird if you were like Xenophon. It would be weird if like everybody was just named of Athens that lived in Athens.
Yes. Yeah.
Are you guys related? Yeah. Nope.
Yeah. But it's like, oh yeah, that's Xenophon. Oh yeah, that Athenian guy. Yeah, that Athenian guy who for some reason is living here in Sparta. And yeah.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he goes to this estate and he writes the Anabasis, which is 7 books, and it is his story of the March of the 10,000, which was already popular and famous at the time. And we haven't mentioned this yet, but the 10,000 are from all over Greece. They're not just Athenians. There are Spartans there. There's Corinthians. There are people from all over Greece as part of this mercenary crew.
Yeah, and we've been referring to them as the Greek army because that's how we have to refer to them. They're not the Athenian army.
Right,
they're the Greek army.
But but there is no like cohesive Greece at this point. It's all the little city states, right? And so Thebes and
sending mercenaries,
Right. And so they're from all over the place. He writes this book, which is one part like inspirational story, one part like, book on leadership, one part like military strategy. And it's super popular even at the time period, right, Pat?
Yep. Yeah. Because it's such a compelling story. And also, honestly, at the time, you might have had a relative who was among the 10,000. And it continues to be popular in the Renaissance. They like to read it. It kind of becomes a trope, like this whole idea of being caught in enemy territory and having to make your way out.
Song of Roland, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And also, the story is compelling, but also if you're someone who's studying Greek, as happened among certain classes in the Renaissance, Xenophon's prose style is actually very good. He's held up as a model of how to write good Attic Greek prose. And I have to say, I enjoy reading Xenophon. He's very pleasant to read, anyway. And also, Ben, you remember we did that episode on Abdul Rahman?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Abdul Rahman, whatever, a few months ago. And
the Falcon of Al-Andalus.
Yes. And somehow I came across, I haven't read this, but there's a work called The Collection of Anecdotes on the Conquest of Al-Andalus, which was compiled in Andalusia in the 11th century. And it actually refers to the anabasis and makes use of it as like a trope, and says how during the Abbasid Revolution, an army of 10,000 under a certain guy named Balj marched to Al-Andalus to support the Umayyad emir Abdurrahman I, which is, sounds kind of Anabasis,
Yeah, Anabasis vibes.
Yeah.
I didn't know this at the time, but it makes perfect sense. I read that the 1979 movie The Warriors is based off the March of the 10,000.
Which is a fun way to look at it in perspective. I'm going to have to rewatch that, but
I know.
It makes sense.
I was feeling the same thing. Got to get out of their turf, got to get into these other guys' turf, but that's a problem too. Like, yeah, I like it.
Yeah. And Xenophon continues on. So this is a dude who likes writing stuff. So he writes a work called the Hellenica, which is the Hellenica, which is a history of the Peloponnesian Wars that picks up where Thucydides left off. He also writes the Memorabilia, the Symposium. These are, the Memorabilia and the Symposium are his Socratic works. They're about Socratic philosophy. They're a defense of Socrates. I've heard these works described as Socrates without Plato. Take that for what is, take that for what you will.
I can't tell if that's a burn or not.
yeah.
I don't know. It depends on your personal relationship to Plato, I suppose. And he writes...
I feel like you have thoughts on this and you're not sharing them with us.
Yes, by Zeus. And Xenophon writes a lot of books that are how-to books, like books about horsemanship, hunting, farming. He's interested in the how-to aspect of things. Like he actually does describe flanking maneuvers, what to do if your leader is on the right side or on the left side, but also he's interested in a lot of these for the ideas behind them. So for example, he has a work on how to hunt with dogs, and it's about how to hunt with dogs, but it's also about how to build character. How does hunting with dogs help young men become moral and of strong character? He writes a book on how to run a household, which is actually kind of women's work. So I don't know, maybe he's the world's first mansplainer.
All right, he's canceled.
He's out.
Yeah. Well, Athens kind of did. Yeah, Athens kind of did cancel him. Yeah. But you see his ideas emerging, his philosophy emerging, and it's in the context of running a household in ancient Greece. This is the cultural context we're in. You do have people who are enslaved in that household. And so Xenophon takes this as an opportunity to reflect on, okay, he does not question the institution of slavery. He still just assumes that people are going to be enslaved. But he does challenge some of the prevailing notions of the time. And he says, hey, people who are enslaved are actual whole human beings in their own right, and they are capable of moral thinking. And apparently this was, maybe this actually needed to be said. And he makes a distinction between, on the one hand, you have people who are legally enslaved or legally not enslaved, but that's separate from whether someone is morally enslaved or morally free. Are you dominated by your, impulses and appetites, or are you free from, knee-jerk reactions or anger or whatever? And he says, well, he's someone who thinks about leadership and how to run things. We want a leader who is morally free. We want a leader who practices self-control, et cetera, et cetera.
All right. And then, Pat, you mentioned that he built a temple to Artemis.
Yeah, he mentions this. This was a retirement project.
Repeatedly, right? Doesn't he mention this like many times in his writings that he built a temple to Artemis?
Yeah. So you said earlier about
I feel like he should have built a temple to Zeus, because wasn't Zeus the one that gave him the vision to bring him back home?
Yeah. But he built a temple to Artemis because wherever his estate was, there was a river that had a name similar to the name of a river that was by a temple of Artemis. And he's like, I'm building a temple to Artemis. Okay.
You do you, right?
Yep. And and so okay. So he also writes a work called The Education of Cyrus. And this isn't Cyrus the Younger, whom he went to fight for. This is Cyrus's ancestor, Cyrus the Great. And it may look like a biography of Cyrus, but do not take it as documentary fact. It's actually kind of an essay on political philosophy where Xenophon uses a fictional version of Cyrus the Great to illustrate his ideas. And he also...
I like that it's called the Cyropedia.
Yeah.
I know that's just Greek, but like I think that's funny.
Yeah. And he also wrote a work called The Constitution of the Spartans. And this is significant because, anything surviving from antiquity is interesting, but the Spartans never wrote down anything like a constitution. And so Xenophon is actually an important source. Is he biased? Who knows? Maybe, But he asks the question.
It took an Athenian to write the Constitution of the Spartans down.
Go figure. Yeah. So he asks the question, what made Sparta so powerful? Let's see if their constitution can give us any insights. And by constitution, it means what are the rules that the leader like Lycurgus established. And one of the things he remarks on is the practice of the leaders, including the king, having their meals with everyone else. Okay, the men. Xenophon seems to think that this leads to better communication and advice. It's like having a council of elders, or kind of keeping your finger on the pulse of how things are going.
It's kind of how he ran his army.
Yeah, yeah. He attributes the fact that Sparta never had tyranny as such to this sort of practice. So it's Xenophon. He likes to think about things. He likes to write about things.
Yeah. And so he spends the later years of his life writing. He's never unexiled from Athens. He eventually has to leave his estate in Olympus because he makes the Spartans mad. But he dies in 355 BC, and he's in his mid-70s, somewhere between 74 and 76 when he dies. His sons actually go back and fight for Athens. Maybe they're the ones that wanted him to be known as Xenophon of Athens.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, we're wrapping the story up here. And Mike, I think I have an important philosophical question for you that the answer is not yes by Zeus. Was Socrates right that Xenophon maybe shouldn't have gone on this expedition? Because on the one hand, it was a really miserable time, but on the other hand, it's the thing that he is the most famous for.
He wanted to emulate the heroes, and now he's a real life Odysseus. So, he came back famous. So
it's 2 hard years in Kurdistan, and
right?
Lifetime of fame. It's totally worth it.
Chicks dig scars.
Socrates doesn't know what he's talking about. And Pat, you were telling me a story about that he had like some Odysseus-like encounters on his expedition that we didn't talk about yet.
Oh, yeah. This is just an episode. It's a thing that happened somewhere on the journey of the 10,000. They encounter what's referred to as mad honey. And apparently somewhere in Turkey, somewhere in Asia Minor, there were rhododendrons that would produce honey. Bees would make honey out of it. That would make you go mad for a little bit of time. Maybe you hallucinate, you just feel totally out of it, and it would knock you out. It would put you out of commission for maybe 2 to 3 days, and you'd be fine after it. And Xenophon tells this. But yeah, I don't know. So it's possible. It's possible the famous Mithridates, the Poison King, knew about this.
And where specifically is this honey?
Well, I don't know. I am not endorsing this, okay? But I don't know. Okay.
Where can I get some?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you know someone who knows where to find rhododendrons in Asia Minor?
I got a plug.
This is definitely the sort of thing that happened to Odysseus all the time, too, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Every time he landed at a new island, it was some kind of mad honey situation for him.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so Mike, what's the lesson of the story of Xenophon?
Sometimes life sucks and you got to march 4,000 miles about it. I don't know. I think that's the main lesson is life's going to kick your face in the dirt.
Yes. You have to just keep going forward. You have to keep marching ahead. You can't give up. That's the story of badass anyway, because you just can't give up. Every time it keeps kicking you while you're down, you gotta keep pushing forward because what else are you gonna do? It's uplifting moral story here. It worked out for him in the end. He had a pretty good. Everything was pretty good after he got back home.
Yeah, so, we're talking about him.
Yes,
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. A little bit of adversity. Okay, so that's the story of Xenophon. He was a philosophy student who became a badass military hero who marched 4,000 miles under attack at every step of the way, came back, wrote the story, became like a best-selling, super successful author, and then wrote like a bunch of books on philosophy that people are still reading today and that are still considered like extremely important in to Greek understanding of Greek philosophy and Greek history. So I want to tie off the Persian story here. Tissaphernes survives. Xenophon leaves and Tissaphernes doesn't get him. Tissaphernes lives until the year 395 when Cyrus's mom, Perisatis, has him killed. Don't mess with mama. And it turns out actually that she was right about Artaxerxes. Artaxerxes reigned for a really long time, but his rule was very weak and disjointed. And his reign is marked by what's known as the Great Satraps Revolt, where half of his governors revolted against him, and they all declared their own satrapies as independent states, and were trying to break the Persian Empire apart. Maybe that wouldn't have happened if Cyrus the Younger was emperor, but it did.
We'll never know.
Yes. So it gets the Persian Empire gets significantly weakened under Artaxerxes II. And the empire, this is a contributing factor after Artaxerxes dies. Xerxes takes over. And this is when Alexander the Great makes his invasion of Persia. By the time Alexander shows up, Persia is significantly weakened. He's able to move in there and conquer the entire Persian Empire. When Alexander attacks Persia, he carries with him a copy of Xenophon's Anabasis with him. Alexander had read the book, and Xenophon's portrayal of Artaxerxes and the Persian army and Tissaphernes convinced Alexander that Persia was vulnerable to attack. And so when he does, he carries that book with him. Maybe also needs to know where to ford the rivers
and where to find the mad honey.
I need that mad honey, and I need to know where to get across the Tigris River. Okay, well, that's all the time we have for today. And Mike Primavera, thank you so much for coming on and helping us tell this story. Where can people find more of your work online?
I'm at Primawesome on all social media, and go follow me there.
All right. Pat, thank you again for coming back here, teaching us philosophy.
Yeah.
I feel like I can navigate my way through many philosophical discussions now.
Absolutely.
Yes, by Zeus.
Yes, by Zeus. All right, and thanks to all of you for listening to this episode. We hope you liked it. If you did, please like and subscribe and follow us. We're gonna do more of these episodes in the future. We have some pretty exciting stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks, so we hope you'll stick around with us for that. And we will see you next week with a new episode.
Stay badass.
Badass of the Week is produced by High Five Content. Executive producers are me, Ben Thompson, Dr. Patricia Larish, and Andrew Jacobs. Writing is by me and Pat. Story editing by Ian Jacobs. Mixing and music and sound design by Jude Brewer. Special thanks to Noel Brown at iHeartRadio. Badass of the Week is based on my website, badassoftheweek.com, where you can read all sorts of stories about other badasses. If you want to reach out with questions or ideas, you can email us at badasspodcast@badassoftheweek.com. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, follow, listen, and tell your friends and tell your enemies. And please leave us a rating. We'll be back next week with another one.